Started.
Yes, thank you so much. And I am still struggling in PowerPoint right now. Where is the present key? Or
The
yeah, like to share your PowerPoint.
I think that if you do you have it open?
Yeah.
Okay, so down at share screen, if you click on that, it should let you select the.
Hold on one second. And Ashley, she felt, I'm sorry, this will not have our last slide in there that we talked about earlier. Um, this is my son, everyone. Say hi to Max.
Hi,
Max.
Hi, Max.
This is a part of balancing being president and a mom at the same time.
I'm sure that mine will make an appearance at some point. Talk to you.
Yeah.
Missed one yet.
Sorry. I am so sorry for technology troubles, everyone. Hold on one second. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining tonight. Thank you for your patience as I navigated technology. I know it was a call back to 2020. That was intentional, trying to get us younger. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen now. Yeah, queen. Okay, so does everyone see my screen with the title slide? Okay, just making sure. So welcome. We thought first, Happy New Year to those of you that we haven't seen, and welcome to our executive team VP series with our executive team VP series. So I'm Kelly Kason-Peth, I'm president, and then Ashley Bunch is with us, our EVP, and then Stephanie Bebach, our elect, and Ashley Schupelt, our EVP elect. Give me 1 second.
And feel free to put any questions in the chat. We'll read them off kind of as Kelly's presenting. You can also, I'm sure, unmute yourself and ask questions as well.
Okay, apologies about that. My 4-year-old was needing something. Okay. Yeah. But we'd like to begin every meeting with our mission statement. And this is our new mission statement that was recently updated by the League last year. And it is that we are an organization of women whose mission is to advance women's leadership for meaningful community impact through volunteer action, collaboration, and training. And then, of course, we also have other shared statements that are also important reminders about our culture's statement of aim, that we're accessible, inclusive, and we empower through movement. And our DE&I statement, of course, that we are committed to inclusive environments and we welcome women who value our mission. So that's a great segue into our presentation about what we do as an executive team, and that at the end of the day, everything goes back to our mission and how are we serving our mission. So this is our board of directors and our management team leaders. And then Ashley Bunch and I will go through and really talk about what we do in our roles. But, a little picture shout out to our leadership team. This is our organization chart. So you can see that, and I hope many of you know by now that the Junior League of Phoenix operates, our governance structure is that of a board of directors and then the management team, which is headed by the executive vice president. So you can see the yellow arrows pointing to where our roles are in the organization structure. And then if I can just divulge a little bit about the board, and then I'm sure Ashley can talk about the management team. The president oversees the board of directors, and per our bylaws, we can have 4 directors at large. So you can see going left to right, we have 2 active directors of large. We must have at least 1 sustainer director at large, and then the 4th director of large can be active or sustainer, depending on the needs of the league that year. I've been around the league long enough to see our boards with like 2 sustaining directors or 3 active directors and 1 sustaining director. Currently, our board has 3 active directors and 1 sustaining director. And then we also have our executive VP. We also have our executive VP, and then our director of finance, and then our secretary. Ashley, is there anything you want to say about the structure of the management team?
Sure, I'll just quickly say, so the management team functions mainly to do the day-to-day work of the league versus the strategic work. And so under me, I have a team that encompasses our training teams, communications, membership, our treasurer and finance, community team, development team, and our admin team. So kind of everything that you think of day-to-day, that's the group that I get to work with. Some of the positions on our team are a little different. So the board is mainly 2-year positions. Most of management team is also 2-year positions, but our treasurer and our treasurer-elect are 1-year positions. And then the provisional team, you all know Sarah and Holly very well by now. They also sit on the management team, and they're 1-year terms as well. So provisional chair and provisional chair-elect. The elect position, the thought behind that is that you will move up into the full chair position the following year. We also have Vivian Akomo, who runs DE&I on the management team. Right now, she is a VP, and we have been working really hard. She and Stephanie have been working really hard this year to kind of figure out what DE&I is going to look like. So next year there will be a committee under her, but this year she's a VP, a standalone, doing some more strategic work for us.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder. And apologies on that, because I am using an old org chart from last year. So, but yes, the VP of DE&I does also fall under the management team. The other thing that I just wanted to call out is some people have asked, like, well, why isn't the provisional program under membership? Because shouldn't it be like, because we're like members of, or we're incoming members. And really, the answer there is that you're in a training position right now where you're learning about the league and where you want to go in the league and the community. And so that falls more under like a training directive than it does under like the membership services, if you want to call it that. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. So we have our bylaws as well as our universal policies. So these are our governing documents. They are in forms and docs in the membership essential / digital cheetah, but the membership portal, if you just needed some bathroom reading and you wanted to read through like how we're run and operated. But our role eligibility is dictated by our bylaws, and our nominating committee works with membership to figure out who is eligible to apply to be the president-elect or EVP-elect based off what's stated in the bylaws. So here you can see that the role eligibility of the president and the executive vice president is you must have served at least 1 year of a complete term on the JLP board or management team, or you're currently eligible for president pursuant to the former bylaws. So we did the governance split structure in 2014. So that's what is referenced there in the former bylaws. But really when you look at what this requirement is, at least 1 year of a complete term on the board or management team, and then you revisit the organization chart, you basically see that anyone who has served in these VP roles, any elected roles essentially, or on the board, even if it's a 2-year term that you're in, if you have finished your first year, you are eligible to apply for president-elect or EVP-elect. And so, and prior to that, we recently just updated these bylaws last year, but prior to that, the pool was even smaller if the requirement was you had to complete a full term. So 2 years was kind of a barrier in terms of having a large pool of candidates. And so this was a great way to widen the pool of candidates who are eligible for president or EVP. And maybe that's going to be you one day when you think about your path in the league and where you want to serve. But really, if your hope as a part of your JLP career planning is to serve, at the highest level as president or EVP elect, think about this role eligibility clause right now and think about how you can plan for your eligibility, because because you will have to apply and be placed and that type of stuff. So there is a little planning that goes into it. Ashley, do you have anything to add here?
No.
Okay.
Wow.
So with that in mind, thinking about JLP career planning, I thought that it would be a great idea to bring in also Stephanie and Ashley Schufelt, so that we can really talk about what our journeys in the league have looked like and what serving in these roles or coming into these roles as Stephanie and Ashley Schufelt are coming in, what that means to us. So I'm going to stop talking because I've talked a lot by now, but maybe Ashley Bunch, you can start, and then Stephanie and Ashley.
Certainly. Thank you. So my provisional year was way back in 2011. So I've been an active member now for, I believe this is my 12th active year. My first active year, I jumped into a leadership position, and I encourage any of you that have the time and availability to consider leadership your first active year, whether that is an appointed position or an elected position. It's a great way to just learn more about the league and get more involved in a really meaningful way. So I mainly worked on the development side of the league for many years. So I co-chaired and then chaired a luncheon that we used to do. And that was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot about fundraising and how to put on an event. And that was great. I served as the league's treasurer for a year. I served on the management team in a couple of different development and treasurer type capacities. I served on the board as well. And then I served on the nominating committee. And I will tell you, think about nominating seriously at some point in your junior league career. It was one of my favorite placements. It is a big commitment because it is a 2-year placement, and then you are ineligible from elected leadership that 3rd year because you can't place yourself. So as Kelly mentioned, you do need to be a little bit strategic if you have some higher aspirations where nominating may fit into your junior league career, but I highly recommend that. I got to know so many people those 2 years. It's a very important position. You're setting the league up for the future. And so it's a really important role. So that was really fun. And then I took a couple of years back. Work was really busy for me and I needed to step back a little bit. And so I took a position as just a committee person 1 year on a community committee. And then I was able to be 7+ where you didn't have to have a placement. But I say that to let you know that you can step back if you need to. We really encourage you, and we're trying to make the league work for you and your life. And so I point those 2 years out just to let you know that I took a step back and then I came back into leadership, and that was totally okay. All of my junior league friends were still here. Nobody questioned why I needed to kind of take that step back. So know that that is always an option for you, and never feel bad about that. And then I got back involved again, and served as EVP elect, now EVP. And Kelly and I have had a really fun almost 2 years. And it's been great this year working with Ashley to get her ready to take over the management team in June, and the really exciting things we have coming up in her 2 years. So that was my career. You'll notice as we all talk, we all had very different paths to leadership and to the positions we're in. And that's the other cool thing about the junior league, is it really does work for you and your needs. So you can kind of take whatever path you want to take to get where you want to go.
Stephanie?
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Ashley. Such a good point too. It is cool to see that a lot of our leaders do have very different paths, different, kind of they're in different spots of their life, which I love. So my story, I guess, of how I got here, I'd think about it. Ashley was so on top of it. Like I joined in 2011 and I'm like, shoot, I can't even keep track of what year my provisional year was, but another kudos to doing leadership, because that is legitimately how I keep track. So I am in my 5th active year, I believe, right now. And my path, and when I started as a provisional, I wanted to get incredibly involved right away. It was a time in my life where just kind of transitioning with different friend groups. I had the time, and work was in a good spot. So I wanted to jump into something new, and that's what I did. I attended a ton of events. I joined the special events committee. I went to one of their committee meetings early on, and then just kept going every month and kind of joined in on what they were doing. That is now our fund development committee. But I had such a great experience with that. I was, in top 5 provisionals of the year for my group, that I knew I had to say yes to leadership right away. And in my first active year, I became the vice chair of special events. And that was such a great experience. I helped write the proposal for a brand new campaign we kicked off, which was Mission Week. I worked really closely with the chair. I am not a fundraiser by trade or by background, so I really had a chance to develop a new skill set, which was something I enjoyed and has helped me so much moving forward in my career and in other areas that I want to work in as well. So after that year, the ultimate plan was to assume, chair position in my 2nd active year, but I actually had a really great opportunity to apply for a position on the management team. And I went for it. It's, if you're ever unsure of yourself, or, is this for me? Will I get it? I'm of the mindset that go for things. Like the worst thing that's going to happen is it's not the right time. And that's not that bad if that's the worst case situation. So in my 2nd active year, I joined the management team as development manager, which is now the vice president of development, which is now a 2-year term. When I joined, it was a 1-year term on the management team. And so that position essentially oversaw all of the fundraising teams and events that we had going on. That was an experience that I got a lot more than I bargained for, I will say. I went into it super excited, had a great handle on what we were doing with fundraising, and then COVID happened. So that was really fun to get to work with different chairs and leaders and really help support them as they figured out how can we pivot, what can we do online. So that sharpened even more skills in my tool set of how I can support people and empower people, and really just help make the best of things. And we did. The team worked so hard. We raised over like $50,000, having to kind of come up with things from scratch. So I felt like I learned so much in that year that I wanted to do it again, which I think is part of why we do a 2-year term for that now. So applied for the position on management team for a 2nd year, and that was helpful because we can push things forward even more. So 2nd and 3rd active year, I was development manager. 4th active year, I was definitely kind of mindful of wanting to broaden my horizons a bit more. on the management team, it was great because you are really entrenched in the day-to-day, as Ashley and Kelly both mentioned. But I wanted to have the chance to be a little bit more on the strategic side. So in my 4th active year, I applied and transitioned to a director at large position on the board, where I could focus on just more strategic initiatives and just look at things from a different lens and think more long-term picture on, where we can go and, what that future vision can look like. So that really helped kind of bring things a little bit more full circle for me. And I figured, what the heck, I've learned so much about myself. I've learned brand new skill sets. I've had opportunities I didn't think possible. I've attended trainings. I've built my network. I've met new people. I would love the opportunity to take this and really utilize this and help benefit the league and give back to the league, since I've gained so much in such a short amount of time. So I decided to apply for the president position, and I'm incredibly excited for what's to come. So currently, as president-elect in my 5th active year, I'm working with Kelly, really kind of I'm a sponge in a lot of ways, just observing what she's doing, trying to support, thinking about what the next 2 years will look like as well. Really continuing to work on those strategic initiatives, looking a lot at the strategic plan right now. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And I definitely was strategic about it. I didn't ultimately, from the beginning, did I know like, hey, I'm going to be the president? No, not at all. It was just more so like a natural chain of events of, hey, I'm building these skills, like I want to use them. And that's kind of where I've ended up here. But I think that's all for me.
Thank you. And Ashley?
Perfect. So I still have to count on my hands that I am in my 6th active year and my 7th year within the league. I moved across the country from Manhattan to Arizona, and I knew no one other than my work colleagues, and I did love them, not all of them. And I was like, I need an outlet. I need to do something so I can do something on the weekends and have, friends and just give back to the community and really just have a life. So I had an incredible year, my provisional year. My provisional advisor was amazing, and she really showed us her passion for the league. And so it kind of just became natural. Like Stephanie said, I mean, I went to every possible event and meeting, and I think I was like in the top 5 as well for provisionals. I got beat out by one girl who's no longer in the league, and I feel like she should have to give back her award, because if you don't stay, it doesn't count. So I'm working on that. That's what I'm going to do as the EVP next year. I'm going to make that a rule. But so my first active year, I actually, at that time, you could not go right into being a provisional advisor. You had to have a year buffer. And so I went and became the vice chair of donor relations, which is no longer in existence. So I feel like I did a really good job on that committee, because definitely grabbed it to the ground, it's fine. But then after that, I was like, okay, I've done my job. Sometimes you just need to say yes. And I think that's the biggest thing, is sometimes you want X and the league needs you to do Y, and you can do anything for a year. So really, I did it for a year, and I was like, okay, now I want to go back. So then I spent 2 years as a provisional advisor, including 1 year that was COVID only. So that was a fun switch. And then I wanted to stay in the provisional world. So then I became provisional chair-elect, and then provisional chair this past year. And I had reached that point where I was going to be 40, and so I could easily go sustainer. And I said it from the get-go, and I was like, I'm doing provisional chair, and then I am sustainer land. And even Kelly came to me like in August. She was like, so what about next year? And I was like, no, don't even come at me, not happening. And then something kind of happened in October, November. I honestly think it was right after Super Saturday 2. I was like, I'm not done. I'm not done with this. I'm not ready for sustainer land. So I had a lot of conversations with Ashley and then the EVPs prior, and I was like, I think this is what I want to do. So, went for it, and now I'm so excited. And like Stephanie said, the league has just given me so much that it's my turn to give back. I will also say that, you know, I know we all talk about that we've made friendships and these are amazing people that we travel with. Just so you all know, as provisionals, it does not happen overnight. It is not like right away you find your best friend in the entire world. It's taken 6 or 7 years for me to say, like, these are my friends and this is my cheering section. So don't get discouraged if you leave your provisional year and you're like, I kind of know one person, but I don't really have that best friend everyone talks about. Like, it takes a while. It really takes a while. But you know, no one has said this yet, but next year is our 90th anniversary. So we have a lot of fun and exciting plans ahead. So I'm just excited to see our league into the next decade. So pull out those hair scrunchies and, you know, primpers. We're gonna have some
Aquanet.
fun.
And Kelly, before you go, I feel like I need to say, because both Stephanie and Ashley said it, I was provisional of the year, my provisional year. So, and still in the league. So apparently I can still keep my provisional of the
You
year.
can
award.
keep it.
It's
Danielle
been over
Brown, give it
years,
back.
So yeah, I don't have to give it back. Anyway, sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Kelly.
No, all good. I really echo everything, especially, you know, about the league beating where you are, no matter what your placement is. And just giving back to the league that has given so much to me as well. And so, case in point, my 4-year-old son walks into the room in the middle of a Zoom meeting, and you guys all gave me some space and grace with that when I had to just step away for a hot second. So, but my journey in the league, unfortunately, I was not provisional of the year. Sorry to disappoint you all. But I actually transferred to the Junior League of Phoenix in 2010 from Morristown, New Jersey, so another East Coaster. But New Jersey by way of Kansas. I grew up in Kansas, went to school in New Jersey, and then I joined the league in Morristown at a time when I just needed more girlfriends, because I work in the engineering industry, which is very male dominated, and I just needed a bit more estrogen in my life. So someone told me about the Junior League, and that's how I learned about the Junior League. And then about a year after that, I got a job opportunity out here in Phoenix that is also closer to my family. My sister lives in Phoenix, and then my parents regularly, you know, come to. And so it was just a natural yes for me. And it was so great to have the Junior League network to transfer into. So just another benefit of being a junior leaguer, that it's not just about Phoenix, that you're really a member of a network of almost 300 leagues all around, you know, the country, and in 4 other in the US and 4 other countries. So when I transferred, where I wanted to be was, I wanted to learn about Phoenix. And for me, that meant joining the community programs and learning about where the needs are in the community, and serving our, you know, community partners, and doing like those Valley Impact. At the time, they're called Valley Impact, but now we call them volunteer action shifts. But you know, those 1-day quick turnaround type shifts where you feel like you made an impact, and you could sign up for those shifts, you know, as it works with your schedule. So that was a really great way for me to get to know the league and get to know the community. And I served in the community arm for a few years, first with the Volunteer Action Committee, and then I led a community partnership program at a time when we had a focus area of health and wellness. Building a Healthy Arizona was our focus area. So I led the Snack Pack Backpack program. And then I moved over to Rockets. Woohoo! Rockets is secretly, not secret, one of my favorite committees in Junior League, just because I have a soft spot for it. And that my year was the year that we actually did the teacher launch. And so it's just so great to see the teacher launch, you know, continuing to be what it is 10 years later. And from there, I served as EVP. No, wait, I did communications, I did development, VP, and then I served as EVP. So I just kind of stayed in leadership. And the reason for staying in leadership for me was because that's where all my friends were. We were all serving in leadership in different capacities in one way or another. And it was just a great way to keep connecting with each other. So in 2016 was the year, my term serving as EVP, 2016 to 2018. And 2018 was also the year I got married and had my first baby. So, and that's when I took a step back from the league. So you can see I like kind of built up, and then I was like, it's time for me to focus on like family and job right now. So I took a step back after I was done with EVP. I did come back to serve in like a special chair capacity at the year that we hosted Southwest Exchange. Shout out to Ashley and Ashley, who are co-chairing our Southwest Exchange that our league has volunteered to do again. But, you know, I took a step back and I didn't really do too much, just serving in like a 7+ type capacity. And then when President-elect came around, there were some hard conversations that I had to have with my husband just to make sure that he knew what the expectations were. But thankfully, he is pretty much a junior leaguer too, because if you are around the league enough, you'll also see my husband, Tony, around. And during the rummage shift, he is a co-chair of the men's department, which he is very proud to be. So, so we're very much partners into it, but serving as president is such an honor. And it's great, you know, and just a little personal touch for me too. I'm just very proud to be the first Asian American president of JLP. When my daughter visited headquarters, when we did the Light Up Awatuki like wrap sign shift. I don't know if any of you were there. Marlena, I remember you being there. But my daughter was looking at the wall of presidents, you know, all the pictures of presidents on the wall. And she's like, Mommy, you're president. Like, where are you on the wall? And so, but it was a very touching point for me to think that if we have a wall, whether it's virtual or whatever, you know, that she will see herself like represented on the list. So that's a very personal reason for me of staying as president. Okay, so I know that was a very long-winded journey, but I hope that you guys got some nuggets out of how we got to where we are today. And again, just a callback to thinking about our placements and, you know, your journey in the league. You can see here under Stephanie Vbach and Ashley Schufelt that you serve 1 year as elect, 2 years in your role. And so, you know, there is like a large level of commitment to the league when you do even think about applying. So I do see a question or a comment in the chat. So I don't know if Ashley or
it just says, yes, we need Kelly on the wall.
We just ran out of space on the wall. That's all. I'm not going to read this all, but you know, because this is the VP series, you will get a copy of this PowerPoint if you would like. And I know this is being recorded, so you can read this at your leisure. But these are the official duties of the president as it was outlined in the nominating application. A couple of things that I do want to call out is that the president, the second bullet, directs the strategic plan by overseeing the work of each board member or the subcommittees. That we also, you know, direct the board meetings and develop the agenda. One perk I would say of being president and EVP as well is the access to AJLI conferences and the resources that are provided to members who do serve in those roles. And, you know, AJLI is coming into a space now where they're being more intentional about agenda planning that includes topics that are for all members. But for many AJLI conferences, a lot of the training is geared towards making sure that the president and the EVP elect have everything that they need to be effective to run a nonprofit. And so that to me has been so invaluable, thinking about the training that I'm getting from Junior League and how that's going to help me down the line as I serve other boards. And then the second to last bullet, Ashley Bunch and I, we meet on the regular. So I would probably say at some point in the day, we're texting each other, you know, just like FYI type things, but it's very important for the president and the EVP to continuously communicate with each other. So the next slide is Ashley's duties. So Ashley.
Okay. I also won't read everything, but something we failed to mention a little bit ago, the executive vice president sits on the board as well as running the management team. So just something else to think about when you're thinking through, do you have the time and capacity to do that? So my first 3 Wednesdays of the month are junior league. So GMM, our management team meetings are the second week of the month, and then our board meetings are the third week of the month. So just something to think about. I love it, as Kelly mentioned, and that was one of the things that I was going to mention. We communicate all the time, even if it is just like quick text message, phone call, get together. We see a lot of each other. So we try to make sure that the decisions that are being made on behalf of the league are really, being thought out well. A couple other things I'll point out. The executive vice president oversees the approval of the annual budget every year. So we work with the management team, all of the committees to come up with a balanced budget each year. That's important. And then we on the executive vice president also oversees the annual plan. I think Stephanie mentioned a little bit about the strategic plan a minute ago. So that's kind of the 3, 5, 10-year outlook for the league, and kind of the bigger goals and priorities that we have. Annual plan, as it says, annually. So each year, it's what the management team and the executive vice president are kind of tasked with making sure happen. We are in the middle of a new strategic plan. So honestly, Kelly and I this year, both the strategic plan and the annual plan are kind of, I don't want to say defunct, but don't meet the needs right now as we're in a new planning year. So we haven't really been working with it that closely this particular year. And I will say the same thing Kelly mentioned about the AJLI conferences. Once you get into elected leadership, just in general, you get access to some of the great AJLI conferences. But once you get into the president, executive vice president level, you really do feel prepared prior to going into your position. So don't let like the fear that you don't exactly know how to run a nonprofit or you're not really sure you have all the skill sets. You get that year to learn from the current person, but you also get conferences along the way throughout your whole journey to make sure that you're prepared and understand and ready to go. And we all of the past presidents and EVPs are a resource as well to each other. So I, every once in a while, call on other EVPs and ask them how they did things or kind of run things by them. So it's kind of a additional sisterhood on top of junior league. So
Yes, I totally agree with that. And then at the bottom of our job descriptions, we mentor and we work closely with our respective elects during the elect year to ensure a smooth transition, because it's very important to make sure that, yes, we're in a planning year for our strategic plan, but making sure that some of the long lead items get transitioned over smoothly as we change leadership, because that's one of the biggest challenges I would say for any junior league is that we constantly change our leaders. And so just, making sure that everyone is on the same page, so to speak, is very important. And it essentially, rolls up to the EVP and the president. Okay, so the next couple of slides really just talk about our governance split structure that I thought was important just to really underscore the difference between what our board is doing and what our management team is doing. But these slides will go pretty quickly. So governance is a system by which the whole organization is directed, controlled, and held accountable to achieve its core purpose over the long term. So this, is our governance split structure, the board and the management team, and our core purpose, of course, goes back to our mission. So the board equals governance. So the board together, the president oversees the board, but it's really working with the directors at large and then the other, placements, the director of finance and secretary and EVP, to set the strategic future, the organizational positioning, resourcing to make sure that we have the right people in the right places, or for example, like committees that if we need to evaluate, how many members are in committees or create new committees, that's all part of the resourcing. And then of course the fiduciary oversight, that we have a responsibility, to make sure that we're within budgets and finance rules and that type of stuff. And then generally our duties of the board, of course, the 3 duties of any board that you might serve on one day is the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. So just quickly, the duty of care describes the level of competence expected of a board member. So this to me speaks to about board members being engaged, being prepared for meetings, being actively involved so that they can make the best decisions on behalf of the league. And then the duty of loyalty, goes into like conflict of interest type things to make sure that decisions are made in the best care of what is right for junior league, not right for you yourself, as a member of the board. And then the duty of obedience, speaks to making sure that we just follow like the appropriate laws and, filing the right things and being obedient, with what we need to be a running nonprofit. And then the authority of the board is we are collective, we are not individuals. So when the board makes a decision, it's the board decision, not just it's not the president's decision or a director's position. To delegation, this goes into working with the management team. The confidentiality aspect is there are some things where the board may need to go into an executive session, for example, speaking about salary raises for our administrative staff. We speak with one voice that, there may be dissent during discussion, but once action is determined, we are a collective one voice, going back to that first bullet. And the last bullet is probably the most important, that we are responsible to you, our members, and not to management. So our members vote us in, and our members vote us in, and that's who we're responsible for, is to make sure that we're always communicating back to you what the priorities of the board are. Ashley, I'll let you do management.
Okay, excellent. So management is the act of bringing people together to accomplish desired goals and objectives using our available resources in an efficient, effective, and risk-aware manner. So as I mentioned before, it's kind of the day-to-day operations. We have a budget, we have a goal and a plan that we are to execute on. So our authority manage the operations and programs based on the annual plan within the board policy guidelines and within the budget guidelines. Similar to the board, we speak with one voice, and we are a collaborative team in determining our annual plan objectives. So the board gives us some high level things to work on, but it's really the management team as a whole that decides how we're going to execute that each year. The management team reports to the board through the executive vice president. So at our meetings, we talk through different issues. We can approve some budget increases. We can do some things at our discretion, but then the EVP always brings that up to the board so that the board is aware of what the management team is doing. Because the management team is responsible to the board of directors and not membership. So we are there to execute on the directives that the board is giving to us. And the board is coming up with those directives based upon the membership. So it's kind of cyclical how we all roll into each other.
All right, so this is a good graphic as to show you exactly what we were just talking about being the board being beholden to membership, and the management team being, you know, reporting to the board. So the board on this box in the upper right, the board, you know, develops a strategic plan that feeds into the annual plan that then the management team or the management councils, as some leagues call it, develop, and then it all just kind of works together. So, and then this is another way to think about how we work together as a board and management team. That, you know, at the top of the circle, if there is such a thing as the top of the circle or the cycle, is our mission, you know, and then as we develop the mission, our vision, our values become clear, we develop those long-term goals, or that strategic plan feeds into the annual plan, and then the tactical activities or the day-to-day things that Ashley talked about. So those the black one and the dark gray one is really more like management team. So you can see how we all work together. And then I just wanted to take a moment just to give you an example of how the board of management team has worked together on the past. And this is through the example of membership points. So for older members like myself or Ashley Bunch, Sarah Gelman, you might be in this grouping too. I don't know. So, but prior to 2014, you can see here in the far left, these were the requirements of every active junior league member. Obviously, you have to pay your dues, but you had to attend 4 GMMs, and then you had to do a community shift, a fundraising shift, a rummage shift, and then complete a training of some sort. And then of course your rummage quota. And so this was prior to 2014. And you can see during the board, and then 2014 was also the year that we had our governance split structure. So, so in fall of 2014, which is not on this process chart, that's when our board, you know, our for that first year, the governance split structure had happened. And that was the official kickoff of the membership retention subcommittee that we have. But in spring of 2014, they identified a need, and then they continued to research it. So you can see there was like research, and then it was basically a year of researching. And this also required input, because that's part of the board's responsibility, is as you're researching it, to get the input from management team, from other members, from other stakeholders, and then you make recommendations based off that input. So in fall of 2015, they launched a pilot program. And at the time, the membership points was like a choose your own adventure type thing, but you had to get to a certain number of points. And so this pilot program was launched that year with select members, and then they gathered more input in the yellow circle. And then in the spring of 2016, there was a final recommendation, and then the board approved it. And it was implemented my first year when I was EVP in 2016-17. And then you can see we continuously do monitor and feedback through the subcommittee. In 2017-18, we kind of adjusted the point structure. In 2019-20 was when we moved to the 4 event credits. So if you're wondering how we got to it, this is how we got to it. But this was how the board, an example of how the board and management team work together to implement our membership points or our membership requirement structure. Ashley, do you have any comments on this?
No, this was a great example to use. I would say for also for those of you in the league last time, a new focus area that we have started in this year. That's another great example of how community research and development is a board subcommittee works with management team to get to a final goal of our new focus area.
Yeah. Okay. And you can also see during this time, there may be leadership transitions, like a board of director may be rolling off at the end of that year, but the research is still, or that input still needs to be done. And those are the transitions and the handoffs that are critically important for the president and the EVP to continue, just to oversee, just as a part of our job, to make sure that those things are still happening. All right, so we've reached the end of our presentation, but these are just kind of my parting thoughts, and I feel like it's been captured in that slide when we talked about our journeys. But I really liked this little graphic. I think it was the Junior League of Ogden that built it. I took it from their Instagram, but they said behind every woman is a group of women cheering her on. So I think for me is, the role of president, you don't have a committee, you're a committee of one, and it could be a lonely island. But I know that, I am very much supported by Ashley Bunch and so many of you, all of you. And it's an amazing position. And I really hope that you all aspire to be president of the Junior League. So Ashley Bunch, do you have any parting thoughts?
I'll just say, similar to Kelly, the support that you receive, you're not alone when you are in these roles. And it has been such an honor to serve in this capacity. So if you are, thinking about any kind of leadership, thinking about one day you would like to be Kelly or myself or Ashley or Stephanie, do it. Take the steps. See if you like the leadership, because it is really truly an honor. You learn so much. You feel so supportive. Kelly and I worked together on the first management team when the split occurred. So it's kind of cool to see how our paths have led us back to leading the league together. So you could have, someone in your provisional class and you could be leading the league here in the future.
Yeah.
We do have a question.
Yes, we're at our question and answer period.
Perfect. Are provisionals able to sit in on board meetings?
Yes, board meetings are open to anyone who wants to join. It's the third Wednesday of every month. I will say we do operate our board meetings by Robert's rule. So you are able to join as like a guest of our board meeting. But typically we guest serve just in like an observatory type role, unless you have a speaking role on the agenda or you request time to speak.
And anyone, including provisionals, can attend management team meetings as well. They're the second Wednesday of the month, and kind of the same procedure. They're there just to observe and not to comment unless they're on the agenda.
That being said, they're super fun. So they want to know, do we just email the organizer to sign up?
Yes, for board meetings, you can email our secretary, Megan One, or jlp.secretary@jlp.org. And a lot of it is like we bring food to the board meetings and that type of stuff. So we want to make sure we have enough drinks and food for you too.
Mm-hmm. And management team, you would just send the email to me. So jlp.evp@jlp.org. I will say we will not be meeting the second Wednesday of February is Valentine's Day. And many of our team have significant others, so they will be enjoying Valentine's Day. So we're doing one-on-one. So if you want to catch a management team meeting, you'll have to wait till March.
Yeah, and I will add on to the meeting type stuff. Like I had mentioned, there may be some sensitive topics that we talk about at the board level, especially during this time of year, at end of year, when we're doing evaluations and that type of stuff. So there may be some sections where we're in executive session, which would be like we ask you to leave or we go to another room. So nothing against you, it's just kind of like the rules of the board. So
Great. And I'll put both of those email addresses in the chat as well.
well, thank you so much.
Any other questions or? All right. Well, Thank you, ladies, so much. And thank you, ladies, for sharing as well. I have already taken attendance, and for some reason my email, there we go. So no need to put your name in the chat. It's already taken care of. Have a wonderful evening. Yeah, evening. I'll stick on for like a little bit longer just in case anybody has any questions.
Thank you so much for coming, and thanks,
Thank
Sarah,
you.
for organizing this.